So Eric, welcome to the podcast, man. I'm excited to have you here.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So we were just talking before. So how long have you been in Palm Harbor in this area?
34 years.
And you came from New York?
Upstate New York. Yep.
So like probably a lot of Florida came from like the Northeast, right?
Yep. It's the greatest move ever.
Yeah. What brought you here?
So my grandparents lived here.
Okay.
And when my parents got divorced, my dad moved me down next to his parents. So
Okay.
yeah,
Gotcha.
that was it.
So family move.
Yep.
Got it. So one of the things I wanted to start off with was like hardships, like, and you mentioned this in the questionnaire, right? Like hardships are a great motivator and you said like to take you to that next level.
Yeah.
My question is, if you have, like, growing up in America, like a lot of us don't really have hardships or whatever.
Mhm.
Like, how do you is hardships the only way to get to the next level?
It's a great question.
Yeah.
So a part of what we do is also life coaching. That's a
Okay.
branch of Bodies by Design is life coaching. And hardships are the primary way to get to the next level. And then those who have that component of them that are just willing to grow for the sake of growing. And Michael Jordan is always the best example of this, is that he was already the best in the world. And all he wanted to do was be better than himself the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that type of unique characteristic that helps someone grow for the sake of growing,
Mm-hmm.
not because they have to. But most humans are wired for survival. So they only get uncomfortable when they're forced to.
Makes sense.
But the few people that go beyond their primal wiring actually take the initiative to grow without the suffering. So they make themselves uncomfortable for the sake of growing and getting uncomfortable.
Yeah. How many people do you think have that? Like, is there like a certain percentage of the population that you like would
I mean,
ask?
statistically, it's going to be definitely less than 20%. But then within that 20%, then you go, you hear of the top 1%ers.
Yeah.
From that top 20%, then every percentage you get closer to the top 1%, it gets thinner up there.
Yeah.
There's only there's one Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
There's one Warren Buffett, right?
Right.
There's those people that just have that thing that makes them. I mean, I heard Warren Buffett reads like a massive amount. He's in his mid 90s, right?
Yeah.
And he still reads all the time, learning, growing. I mean, he could have quit a long time ago and just chooses to keep feeding the fire of growth and learning.
Yeah. Where does that come from, you think? Like, to have that innate ability to just like challenge yourself?
So nature and nurture is always the discussion of, is it born within you or is it taught to you? And there's no black and white there. And I think, of course, it's got to be a combination of both. And then, again, certain hardships can inspire things. So for me, early on, it was hardships. But then once I got a taste of what growth feels like for the sake of growth, then it became a desire to really just keep learning in all aspects that I could.
Yeah. When did that happen for you? Like how old were you when you found that desire to grow?
That happened at about 27. I took a personal development course, which completely transformed my life, my reality, and it helped me in my personal level, my professional level, my mental emotional level. And then when I got that taste of expanded freedom, power, self-love, it was like, holy shit, there's more of this. Sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's so much more that can be possible in my life if I'm willing to do the work to learn and grow from people who have already been there and done that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I began seeking out wisdom around the planet in all different areas. Again, health, wealth, the fitness realm, the personal development realm, all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. But do you, like going back to the nature versus nurture thing, right? Like, do you think there was something in your childhood that your parents did to kind of instill that mindset in you? And it took until like 27 of you reading this book or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's interesting. A pretty famous story in my family is that when I was a little boy, it was hard for my mom to discipline me because she would try a variety of punishments and I would always innately try to find joy in it
Mm.
and would frustrate the hell out of her.
Okay.
Because she's trying to make me learn a lesson or suffer in some capacity so that I would learn to not do this or throw that or break this. And one of the famous family stories is that she put me in the corner, and I decided to see, back then we had like vinyl or wallpaper with all these lines. And I just decided to see how many lines I could count. And I just started counting to see how high I could count.
Yeah.
And I would stand there until she removed me. I would literally just set it in my mind. I'm going to count as high as I can. And let's just see.
Yeah.
And if it's 5 billion, great. And, I was 6 or 7 years old, but it was always, that component has always been in me because of the stories that my parents tell me of my early years.
Crazy. That's pretty cool.
And then wrestling, I have to throw wrestling in there because it's, if you participate in wrestling at any decent level of competition, there's no glory, there's no fame, there's no money, there's nothing in it other than training harder than any other sport on the planet just for the sake of trying to win a match and being better. So that sport and my coach in that sport had a huge impact on my determination and ability to just keep working through discomfort.
Do you think that more so physical or just like all of it? All of it.
Way more mental, emotional.
Yeah.
Because you're cutting weight. I mean, you're putting yourself through
mentally
hell.
It's like, that's the big component of all that.
Right. Yeah. And there's no, it's not like the football players that are going to get these, the whole school comes to their games. No one comes to wrestling matches, but the parents.
Right.
And there's no money in it because there's no NFL for wrestling.
Yeah.
So, the drive has to be from within. It can't be from without. It can't be for the big paycheck and it can't be for the girl.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Interesting. I like all that. All right. So your company, Bodies by Design, when did you start this company?
So I started health coaching training at 18. I started the company in 1999.
Okay.
So the company came once I built enough momentum, added a couple practitioners to my team. Then I formed Bodies by Design in 1999.
Okay. Crazy. So you've been doing it a long time.
28 years officially.
Yeah. Why did you want to get into coaching and health
coaching?
So
it actually just happened organically. I lived what I was learning. And people just started asking me for help. And I wrote my first fitness program in 1996.
Okay.
And then within a year, I had about 15 clients that I was writing programs for: exercise, nutrition, lifestyle changes, and things like that. And people just kept coming to me because I walked around with water. I always had a cooler with my food, and I just lived what it is that I was teaching, and people just started asking for help. And then one of the guys I was coaching at the time, he was quite a bit older than me, and he was a businessman, and he said, you need to start a formal company and really, really do this. And he helped me just get out of the fear of, a job and actually start a business and start, growing and expanding in our services and that we offer.
So what do you, I guess kind of like, how has it evolved since 1999?
Oh yeah.
Right? Like what did you start with? And then where are you at today?
So in 1999, we were just personal trainers that did a little bit different than, we were still functional trainers, which is, our facility is a wide open box. It's not a gym filled with machines that people sit down on. It's functional. It's real life function. And then I was in a massive car accident. And also 1999, I was in a accident on US 19 that shut down the street. Bay Flight came, the whole deal. And within about 5 years, I couldn't walk any longer. And so my fitness background, every time I try to get back into working out, because I was doing all the rehab and therapy, and I would get myself out of pain and I'd start to work out again and I'd get hurt immediately. And so I saw that there was a massive gap between the rehab world and the fitness world. And so I had to learn how to properly assess and then properly progress myself from acute injury back to full function, because trainers don't really understand this stuff and therapists don't do the big picture. Because whenever you have a single injury, the body is connected. A spine injury is not just a spine injury. A spine injury affects everything in the body. So if you're just treating the spine, which is all therapists can do or doctors can cut on, everything else is going to be compensating in the meantime while you're dealing with pain. And if you're not treating that, you can fix the spine, but now you have other issues elsewhere, which are going to cause issues back to the spine again, anyways.
Yeah.
And so I had to go outside of the system to learn, how do I assess and how do I treat myself holistically so that I can go from acute injury back to full function again. And that was years and years and years and years and years of learning, mistakes, injuries, setbacks, and just,
Yeah.
learning the hard way.
And did you just learn on yourself, or were you like taking courses?
So
Like, is
yeah,
there like classes on
there's
that?
an advanced certification that's called the Czech Institute, CHEK.
Okay.
And it's a holistic institute founded in California, taught all over the world, but it's a very, very in-depth. To give people a sense of it, the introductory level is PhD level therapy. And that is their level 1 training, is the PhD level for therapists. And we know that because I was studying that, and one of my sister's friends at the time was a PhD therapist, and he's looking through the material. He's like, what are you learning? I'm like, oh, it's just the intro course. He's like, intro course? And I'm like, yeah, this is level 1 out of 5.
Yeah.
And he was just blown away at the comprehension because, again, we're not a part of a system. Holistic is broader than linear.
Do you see like healthcare changing to become more that way?
People have to change their mindset. Because of my experience I was 21, maybe, when my accident happened. I realized then, if I want proper treatment in this country, I have to be able to afford it myself.
Yeah.
You cannot rely on the government or insurance companies to pay for proper care.
Yeah.
Because it's not how the system works. The system's going to treat symptoms, but the solution is in the root cause, not in the symptom. And so until the population evolves to demand that from their healthcare providers or be willing to pay for that themselves. We go to medical doctors for our kids, but everything is out of pocket because the things that they test for and the things that they do and the things that they work with us on with our children are not covered by insurance.
Yeah.
But it's holistic. And so either the population has to change their mindset and be willing to invest in themselves instead of a new $1,500 iPhone. One or the other. But at the end of the day, people have to be responsible for their own healthcare.
Have those opportunities like always been there? Or is that like you talked about, like you're taking your kids and having a more holistic approach? Like, have those opportunities been there, or that those opportunities are new now too?
Yes, both. Okay. Yes, because people are realizing short-sighted symptom care doesn't work. Yeah. Because they end up with the same problem or more problems later on. How many people start on one medication, then they need medication to cover the symptoms of the medication?
That's so crazy.
Right? And then it ripples.
Yeah.
And so, yes, there are a lot more holistic, everything from health food stores. When I moved to this town, Nature's Food Patch was the only health food store here in downtown Clearwater.
Yeah.
That was it. And now there's a health food store almost on every corner in Palm Harbor. There's a Trader Joe's coming, which again, health food store doesn't mean all healthy, but it's a start.
Yeah.
And so it is absolutely starting to grow gradually. And there are a lot of options.
Yeah, it is. And yeah, it's good to see. And I've had conversations with, people that have been in the medical field, right, as a nurse practitioner, and then they have since like left that field because they've seen everything that's gone on and stuff, and or they've had an experience like yours where they had to go through that system and it just like didn't work for them. So it's like, okay, I need to figure out a solution for myself.
Exactly.
Yeah. So going back to the hardships, right, like do you like hardships around like your healthcare? Do people need to have hardships to understand that they need to take a more holistic approach?
Yeah. And the answer is very similar. Most people do. Most people need to get a diagnosis or have a physical injury to start paying attention. Because they don't want to be uncomfortable. They don't want to change their lifestyle. It's very uncomfortable to change in any area.
Going back to that percentage of like most people
Correct.
don't want to change.
Most people don't want to change. And what's funny is that I really encourage people. I live an incredible life. I love food. I love travel. I'm not this boring eat cardboard and spinach type of person. I mean, I eat amazing food. I love food. I love fun. I travel. I do lots and lots and lots of fun things. And there's a way to live your life. People think they have to stop living to be healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't. You just have to evolve and do it better.
Mm-hmm. It's almost, I almost feel like you're truly living, like if you're living healthy and you have the physical capabilities to go out and actually live and travel and do all those things,
exactly.
right?
Exactly.
To be there for your kids and to roll around and play with them and all that kind of stuff.
And I love seeing my clients are my crystal ball because I've been doing this now for almost 30 years. I have clients now that are 80 that I've been working with since they were 50.
Wow.
And taking them through going into more advanced ages and watching that population of people from 70 to 90 that stay with it and what they can do. See, it's a slippery slope where we're cool for a while until we hit that 50, 60. But once you hit 70, if you haven't been dialed in, you decline. The average age is 77.
Wow.
That's dead.
Wow.
That's 77.
Yeah.
Right. If you're not managing that, the people that I work with that stay with our system for their lifetime, you know, my parents are great role models. Both my parents are in their mid late 70s. And then I have about a half a dozen to 10 clients that are in that mid to upper 70, 80 range. And they are thriving. You would look at them and think they're 60. And that is where this, you know, at your age or my age, it's, you still got, like, it can start falling apart here because I see a lot of people my age come to me on medications and everything hurts and, you know, they've got a lot of things out of balance, but seeing the quality of life at 77 or 80 or 87, 90, it's amazing. That's when it really matters because, right, like you want to be able to travel, play with your great grandkids. I mean, those are gifts that, you know, money can't buy.
But you have to start early, right? Like you have to, like you can't just start at 70.
It's helpful to start early. So all of those that are younger, yes, start now. And the body reproduces itself. And so it's never too late to start. It's just easier if you start the habits early.
Something that's like got me like really fired up and motivated to like put on muscle and stuff is, I think I read somewhere like after 40, like your muscle, it becomes harder, or your muscle starts declining, or it becomes more and more challenging to put on muscle. Right. And I'm like, oh, dang. Okay. I'm 38. Like I got to get going, you know? But for the same reasons, like I want to be able to do travel and do all these things and go on hikes and stuff when we travel. Right. So like, I've never really fully committed to like weightlifting and training and stuff. And now I'm there where it's like, okay, now you have to do it. So going back to like the hardships or whatever, right? And I have a hardship, but it's like the mindset of like, if I'm going to do it, I don't want to be 70 and not able to walk.
Correct.
Yeah. Is there, I know you said like it's never too late to start, right? But is there, like, do you know the stats around like muscle, like putting on pounds of muscle and stuff? Like when that starts to decline?
That's a really good question. Hormones have a lot to do with that.
Okay.
And then the challenge with putting on muscle later is that you do need to lift heavier or more intensely to stimulate the HGH and testosterone. But in doing that at a later age, you're more prone to injury. So it's a double-edged sword there, is that you can
lifting the heavier weights
to put on the muscle, to boost the hormones, to put on the muscle. But then at that age, if you're not clearly understanding how to do it properly, then you're going to get hurt and then you have a setback. So that is where, again, my clients, I have some before and after photos, and one is actually on the Bodies by Design Facebook page. I have a guy I started with, he was 60 years old. Now he's 70, he'll be 78 in a couple months. And I have a picture of his back muscles when he was overweight and soft at 60, and now he's almost 80. And we have gradually increased his strength to keep his body safe from injury and increase testosterone and growth hormone. And his musculature at 78 years old is unbelievable.
Yeah.
So crazy. I think that before and after photo is on. But how many people get fitter from 60 to 80?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But you have to do it carefully, gradually, and intelligently.
Yeah. And that's where you come in, right?
Yeah, that's where I come in.
You need a coach, so you need somebody.
Right.
Because if you haven't been doing it for that long,
right.
like, you have no idea.
Yeah. If I have an issue with the engine in my car, something's sputtering, I'm not going to start ripping that thing apart. I don't know anything about it.
Right.
And the mechanics of the body are even more delicate than the mechanics of a car. And so you have to know what to turn, when to turn it, how much to turn it, when to stop turning it, when to turn something else. And that's all a part of the learning that we've done for the last 30 years almost.
Yeah. So you mentioned like optimal health.
Yeah.
Right. There are 4 pillars of optimal health.
Yes.
Like, walk me through those.
Okay. This is where efficiency, I don't know if you've ever golfed before. Yeah. Okay. I started late in life with golf, and the harder you try, the worse you hit the ball, or at least I do. I hit the ball when I try too hard. But when I learn how to be efficient in my motions or actions, there's power. So there's a book called Power versus Force, which actually explains a lot of the laws of the universe, that trying too hard, all the CrossFits and the hard effort people put in, it's unnecessary. There's efficiency, but it has to start with health. From health, then you add exercise into that. And so the 4 pillars are air, and the 4 pillars are literally what give life to the human being: air, water, food, sleep. That's it. Master those, master the basics. You could literally, the amount of CrossFitters and people that I rehab because they're trying so damn hard.
Yeah.
You know, it's, you don't have to try that hard. You just have to know what to do. And people underestimate. You ever heard the expression, if you want to hide something, put it in plain sight?
Yeah.
Air, water, food, and sleep is right in front of us.
Yeah.
And every one of us has to do an aspect of that every single day. But what's the quality of those 4 pillars that builds the foundation of our vessel? And so breath work, proper hydration, proper nutrition, and proper sleep. And sleep and stress I have at the 4th pillar, because stress and sleep are directly linked. And so learning how to manage and master each of those 4 pillars for optimal health, then you add in fitness to support the physical body.
I like it. Okay. So air, so you mentioned breath work.
Yeah.
Like, I've recently started some kind of like morning meditation, like breath work and stuff. I'm like, oh, I like this. What are some good, I guess, like, good places to start, or like, if you're interested in like learning about breath work, like, what's some good
literally
practices?
Just learning how to breathe. Most people, so I actually can test, I test the function of breathing, which is the diaphragm.
Yeah.
Do you, a client, a person, diaphragmatically breathe? And the way you know is you put your hand over your belly and you see if that rises first or if your chest rises first. And most people, when they breathe in, they suck in.
Yeah.
They don't expand. They do this versus that. And so it's, number one, you have to learn how to breathe.
Yeah.
It sounds silly, but I test people every day on proper breathing mechanics. And somewhere along the line, if you watch a baby breathes perfectly.
Where does that, how does that change? Because I noticed, I read this a couple of years ago, and it's something I've been like aware of. And because I always like, I take a deep breath and it's like with my chest. Like, how does that change? Like, when does that change?
So I haven't seen anything concrete on this. My assumption and my own intuition is that it evolves with stress and a sedentary lifestyle. So the combination of us sitting all day, every day, basically since the moment we're in school, and then the stresses of life create tension and restriction of breath. And I feel that it's gradually, we evolve out of that proper diaphragmatic breathing. So a place to start is learn the mechanics, learn how to breathe. Because if it's like the golf swing. If I'm swinging the club wrong, it doesn't matter if I practice 10,000 times.
Right.
I'm practicing it wrong 10,000 times.
It's still not going to go where you want it to go.
It's not going to go where I want it to go. So I've got to learn what's the correct method. How do I properly assess and then practice from there?
Yeah. Okay.
And your breath work practice is amazing. And I would just throw one in at nighttime because that's going to help the fourth pillar, which is sleep.
Sleep.
Yeah.
So is that important to have to help and aid like better sleep, to have some sort of nighttime routine,
100%,
like breath work?
100%.
Yeah.
You must have a decompression routine because our lives are inundated with stimuli and stress, including blue lights from our phones and screens.
Yeah.
We have to decompress the system. We have to cool it down before we shut it down.
Is there a time frame of like you need to decompress for X amount of time?
Yeah. So optimal is usually 60 minutes to 2 hours before. Basically, once the sun starts going down, if we just follow life and nature, we kind of want to do that ideally. But you can, if you learn how to decompress, I shut myself down 30 minutes before bedtime.
Okay.
So at 9:30, everything's off.
Okay.
Everything, phones off, ringers, everything's off. And I start my breath practice, my gratitude journal, and I really decompress. And then I'm out like a light before 10.
Yeah. Okay. I need to start with like turning the phone off. Like that's like I get stuck doing that sometimes.
Yeah. Learning how to self-evaluate.
Yeah.
Or I don't like to use criticize, but I look at if I love organic dark chocolate, which I do, and I'm not the eat one square kind of guy. I'm eat the whole bar kind of guy.
Yeah.
Don't bring it in the house.
Right.
If I know that my phone is a thing, I shut my phone. You can set it in your settings where the phone shuts itself off.
Oh, okay.
So my phone goes dark at 9:30.
Oh, I didn't know you could do that.
Yep.
I like
it's in the settings. Okay. So everything shuts down.
Yeah. I've got my notifications turned off, right? So I turn the notifications off at a certain time, where I think it's like 8 o'clock or something. But yeah, I like going back to like the 2 hours before Dr. Andrew Huberman. I've listened to a lot of his podcasts and stuff. And I think that was his like recommendation is like no blue light, like 2 hours before bed is like what the science says about that, right? Yeah.
There's optimal and then there's practical.
Right. Yeah.
Most people aren't. So I need to work with the individual. What are you willing to do? If you can do 2 hours, by all means, do 2 hours.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't work for you, for me, it's not that practical because I work a little bit longer.
Yeah.
But 30 minutes is great. Sleep like a rock. I'm in bed before 10 and I'm, honoring my circadian rhythms for getting proper recovery from sleep.
Yeah.
And that works for me. But yeah, the 2 hours is like kind of the max.
The benchmark.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Okay. So air, water, hydration, like that's always a big question.
Yeah.
Like how much hydration should you get?
Oh, this is great. This is great because the one thing that has never really been argued is that half your body weight in ounces per day. So if you weigh 200 pounds, it's 100 ounces a day. That's been a standard since I started studying it, and it hasn't really changed. What people miss is that so if that's the case, that is true if you're not consuming diuretics, which is caffeine and alcohol.
Okay.
And everybody on this godforsaken planet drinks one or both.
Yeah.
Almost every day.
Yeah.
So then you have to add that back in. So if you have 12 ounces of coffee, the research has said you have to add at least 12 to 36 ounces of water to cover that 12-ounce cup.
Wow.
So you have to now account for any diuretic you're consuming on top of that baseline minimum.
Okay.
The half your body weight is the minimum. If you're working outside, you're sweating outside, you're going to the beach, you're going for a run, anything that causes extra perspiration, you're going to need to, again, the half your body weight is minimum. And then you've got to cover your diuretics by adding additional water. Then you also have to consider dehydration through sweat.
Yeah.
And then quality is an entirely different podcast conversation because the type of water and all that is a whole different, it's
okay.
Yeah. That's a whole conversation. But we can start with the basics, which is
The
half your
amount of
body.
water.
Yeah, the amount of water, half your body weight plus anything to cover your caffeine or alcohol.
Yeah. Wow. So that's a lot of water, right?
It's a lot of water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like I remember in college, right, where you like if you didn't want to be hungover, like if you're gonna drink a beer, like you have a glass of water,
Yeah.
right after
Yeah.
that, right?
Right.
So that's kind of where that comes
Yeah.
from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, interesting. So water, air, water, and what was the third one?
Food.
Food. Okay, so
Yeah.
nutrition. That's a big one,
That's
right?
the biggest one of all because all day water is simple. It's one thing. You have to know the amount and know the quality, and then go and repeat it.
Yeah.
Over and over and over and over and over. Breath work also kind of simple. Learn how to breathe and then do it.
Mm-hmm.
Simple. Repeat it over and over and over. Nutrition, we're all eating every day, all day, every day. And then we have variables like the weekends, traveling, meetings, everything. And there is no one way. We do what's called a metabolic test to determine how a person metabolizes fuel, because food is simply fuel.
Mm-hmm.
And if your vehicle requires diesel, it doesn't make my vehicle, which has gasoline, bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the proper fuel for the proper vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
And so we don't subscribe to any philosophy of eating or nutrition. We test our clients metabolically through a questionnaire, and then we identify how they metabolize fuel, and then we build a nutrition program around that.
Gotcha.
So it is a individual, it's called biochemical individuality, and that is how we coach our clients for nutrition.
Yeah, interesting.
And it's dead on. And it doesn't deal with philosophy. It's not philosophies or feelings or emotions. It's literally biology.
Like this is what you need to
eat
for your body.
Yeah. This is a machine.
Yeah.
And you need to feed the machine what the machine is made to function on.
Yeah.
And that's what we do.
So I imagine, so similar to like water, if you're exercising or like you're increasing the intake of how many calories you're consuming and stuff, right?
Yeah. So correct. So we once we identify their fuel type, now we have to build a program around their goals. Right.
Right.
So,
lose weight, gain weight.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I know that the vehicle takes diesel, but I need to take a trip across the country. Well, I need a lot more fuel to make that trip. Or if I'm just running down the road, it's good where it is. Let's set it and forget it, and we'll just make our little trips. So it's then we take that customization and implement it into their goals.
Yeah. Yeah. Is it hard for people to stick to like the nutrition?
It's all about accountability.
Yeah.
That is where a lot of what we do is very valuable for people, is that the knowledge is not power. It's the application of, So having accountability. So our programs, they have to journal, they have to report. And then once their program phase runs out, then they decide, okay, can I do this on my own? Or do I need to continue journaling and being accountable until it's automatic? Any habit will eventually become automatic, but it takes a lot of coaching and support to get people there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I've, if I don't plan, like lunches is a big one for me, right? If I don't have like something set aside for lunch, like with my schedule, and it just becomes
correct.
Like, what can I get?
Yeah,
like, what's
exactly.
the quickest, fastest thing? Sometimes I'm like under eating. Right. Because of all
super
that.
common.
Yeah.
The plan.
Yeah. So that's a big part of it. All right. Sleep.
Yes.
What's the optimal like time?
Perfect. This is just sleep science. It's called circadian rhythms. This has been since the dawn of mankind, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Okay. That is when the hormones of the brain and the body are being released optimally when you're sleeping. So it's not a quantity, it's a quality first. You will feel more rested sleeping from 10 to 4, which is 6 hours of sleep, than if you slept midnight to 9 a.m., which is 9 hours of sleep. You will feel better sleeping less hours in the proper pocket of the circadian rhythm.
Interesting.
Because between 10 p.m. and midnight is when the majority of physical healing occurs. So you have 2 hours. If you go to bed at 11, you're missing 50% of the optimal time for healing and recovery. You must be sleeping for these things to start kicking off in the brain.
Okay. So a couple questions around that. One is, let's start with like the people that say they're like night owls,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, love that.
Is that just like that's just their mindset
That's their
around?
justification. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything, they have to make sense of why they're doing something unhealthy.
Yeah.
Because there's been 50 years of sleep science and circadian rhythms.
Mm-hmm.
You're not an anomaly to the universe.
Mm-hmm.
The sun rises and sets. It's how we're made. We're literally made in harmony with the universe.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally a part of us. We're a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and again, I've tested this. I've done all of those different various things, and you will burn yourself out. And again, when people are like, oh, I feel good, you feel good in spite of. It's not because of. And that's a very important distinction to make. Usain Bolt set the record for fastest human ever when he was 19 years old eating McDonald's because he was 19 years old.
Right.
Right. By the time he hit his third Olympics, and I remember watching his evolution, he had to switch to organic food because his body was breaking down and not recovering. So he won the gold medal and set the record for human speed in spite of his diet, not because of his diet.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same with sleep. Just because you're feeling okay sleeping after midnight because you're a night owl, it's in spite of it. We all get the same 24 hours.
Yeah.
Just shift things.
Yeah.
And do all the stuff you wanted to do either earlier. And again, you can boost yourself with caffeine in the morning. That's fine.
Yeah.
But get that proper recovery so you don't grind out your adrenals.
Yeah. And you like they feel good, right?
Yeah.
But like it's like, how would you feel if you slept like during that time? And
Correct.
same thing with like Usain Bolt. Like,
yeah.
How fast would he have been if he was like optimally eating and stuff?
That's correct.
You know? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So my other question on the sleep then is, so I use like I have like a Garmin watch that I track my sleep with, right? And I track, or what I always typically look at, and I don't know if this is good or not, but the amount of deep sleep that I get.
Yeah.
And when I try, like when I'm sleeping well and I think feel the best, I'm getting like more than an hour of deep sleep or something like that.
Yeah.
But you just made me think about, like, I wonder, my deep sleep it's been like just shy of an hour of deep sleep.
Yep.
And I wonder if I'm also going to bed just a little bit later.
Yep.
Like 10:30 or so.
Yeah.
And like, so that affects all of that too.
100%. Yeah. And then if you do your breath practice that you have for the morning, do that before bed, your deep sleep will be deeper and it will be longer.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then that's the other thing, is I don't have that nighttime routine.
Correct.
You know?
Yeah.
So, okay.
So that'll help tremendously. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Crazy. It's there's so much involved, right? Like there's so much that goes into like being your optimal self. I'm starting to like lean into that more and really enjoy all that goes into it, you know.
That's great.
Because even like the fitness, like I've always been active and stuff, and I've been able to be physically active, but to put on muscle and stuff, and that's when I feel my best too.
Yeah.
Like when I'm lifting and doing harder things.
Yeah. And the lifting there's always an argument. Cardio made its way into our culture when equipment companies wanted to sell treadmills.
Okay.
Weightlifting is it. You know, it's cardiovascular exercise in and of itself is typically a stress producing event in the body's physiology. It creates more stress, where weightlifting or strength training creates testosterone, human growth hormone, which are hormones of the youth. So one is going to make you feel great and boost you, and the other one's going to grind you down and produce more of what you already have too much of anyways every day. And so I really encourage people to look at stress. Remember, the fourth pillar is sleep and stress. There's 7 variables of stress that we experience every single day. One of those 7 is exercise. So doing more is not always better.
Yeah.
It's doing the correct amount and the correct type. And then, you know, and looking at the big picture holistically, because just going to the gym, whether you feel like it or not, is not always a good methodology. Maybe you do sleep more. Okay. But our mindset is like, oh, you got to push and you got to kill and you got to destroy. Well, for why?
Yeah.
Why not just feel good?
Yeah.
And if you feel good, then you make those intelligent decisions of, going to the gym if you don't feel like it because you just need to go, or are you actually exhausted and your body needs to rest and maybe you should meditate instead of run or lift?
Yeah. So that's, I realized, so this morning, so it's been like a week and a half that I've been going to the gym, and this morning was supposed to be a gym day, right? I was going to go for my run with the run group like we talked about. And then after that, I was going to go to the gym. I did that last Friday. And I just wasn't, I was exhausted. Like my body just felt exhausted. Yeah. I'm like, I need a break.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Listen, your body will tell you things. So I've made this mistake innumerable amounts of times of not listening. There is a voice that is telling you what to do. And it's hard to know because sometimes it's coming from the self-sabotage voice, but then there's a voice that's deeper than that. And I've made this mistake and I don't listen to it. And then I end up getting hurt or exhausted or something. And I'm like, oh, and I know that I had heard the voice. Yeah. So after the 8,000th time, I made a commitment. If you feel that voice, stop.
Yeah. It's funny because I like the whole run, like I woke up tired and like that whole morning I'm like, I don't know, but I really should go. Like, I just need to push through. Like, I'm just getting started, and I'm back and forth the entire time. And I'm just like, after the run, I'm like, okay, I can't. Right. I can't do it.
Yeah.
But it's so hard because you don't know it. I mean, I think deep down, like we do truly know, like we shouldn't do this or we should do this. Like we're just making excuses or not.
Yeah.
But it's a battle every single time.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, so Bodies by Design. So I guess like kind of summarize like what you do to kind of help people live optimally.
So holistic health and fitness. So we do all the basic fitness training, weight loss, all that stuff, advanced rehabilitation, life coaching, and optimized living, which again, it's putting it all together. It's really optimizing breath work, hydration, nutrition, sleep and stress, and physical fitness. And dialing it in for people. Yeah. So many people have something wrong with their bodies because nobody's perfect. And we help to look at the big picture, work with other medical professionals if necessary, and help really steer the person. And I love the word optimal health. There is no such thing as feeling too good.
Right.
You can't feel too good. So just like Michael Jordan, he didn't make every shot.
Yeah.
Right. He still missed. And so he was practicing to get that much better and that much better and that much better. And there is nothing in this world. There's no thing that feels better than feeling your best.
Oh yeah. 100% agree with that.
And so I love this. So I've had a couple billionaire clients in my day. And one of them once said to me, I love this. A healthy person has 1 million wishes and a sick person has one. And if you're not thriving at your absolute best, your focus is going to be on some very short, narrow-sighted, whether it's your knee, your back, oh, my gut's a mess, or I'm tired, or something like that. But when you are thriving, the world is your oyster because you can do anything that you want.
This is taken care of.
This is taken care of. You got to handle home base.
Yeah.
And then go do the rest.
Yeah. I love that.
This is your first investment. And then everything else is secondary. Because without this, I mean, there's so many people that I know, they've got $50 million, $100 million, and then they get cancer. Well, what good is any of that if you are dead?
Yeah.
Or on chemo radiation. I mean, this story is too prevalent in heart disease and cancer it's the stats. It's like 1 in every 1.5 have one or the other. It's
wild,
staggering.
Wild.
So health is first.
And it's because we got away from all of that, right? We got away from, or I don't know if we ever were like had that mindset of like taking care of our bodies, but we do now, right?
Yeah.
And so like we can do something about it.
We can.
Yeah.
We have the technology.
Yeah, I love it. All right, so last question for you. You've been in Palm Harbor for a long time. We talked about like what brought you here to Palm Harbor in this area. What is what do you love about this community?
Okay. So I have this conversation because I'm always trying to recruit my friends from around the world to
Nice.
move here.
Nice.
Everything about this place. I mean, I've traveled a lot, and there's no other place I would rather live. We literally have a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And then if I want to go experience the cold or the mountains, I'll just go take, I mean, I can take a month off and go to Colorado.
Yeah.
I'll go do that, but I'm not living there.
Yeah.
This is it for me. It's just the town, the community, the location, the taxes.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, we are in one of the nicest places in the country, but the cost of living here is still very, very, very affordable.
Yeah. And I think and if you don't travel, right? Or like myself, like growing up here, right? It was kind of the same thing. Like, oh, I have to leave. Yeah. And I think that was probably it, because I had to like, I need to experience something different, right? I don't want to, just live in one place my entire life. But same thing, now that I've traveled and seen different cultures and different cities and stuff, you're like, oh wow, this is a really great place to live. Yeah, we do have a lot of great things here.
We sure do.
So why leave?
I know. I love it. I'll just travel if I want to go experience different things. But this is my
I don't
home.
need to live in the cold and the snow and all that stuff. But yeah,
and I don't need to pay 3x in taxes.
Right.
I love here.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Well, Eric, man, thanks for being here so much.
Thank you for having me on. This has been great. Great to meet you.
Yep. And real quick, your location, like where are you guys located?
We're right on US 19 in Palm Harbor between Tampa Road and Nebraska. And we're right next to there's a Lucky Dill. Everyone seems to know that as the landmark. Yeah. My office building is covered by an oak tree, so you can't even see it. Nice. But we're in the strip plaza directly south.
Okay. Yeah. And then if anybody's interested in working with Eric, we'll have all the links in the description below. So go check him out.
Thank you. Thanks. All right, man. This is great.